49 undefeated. 49, 49, I say. 49, 49 undefeated. Playing for the Arsenal way.
Hello, welcome back to my channel over and over and over again, which features everything to do with Arsenal. This is going to be part 2 of the player ratings for the 2019-2020 season. If you've seen part 1, that was the goalkeepers and the defence, and in this part 2 I'm going to feature the midfield players and the attackers. So let's get straight into it then. If we start with Dani Ceballos, of course his season-long loan from Real Madrid. It was a bit of a strange season in many ways. He started off really well, didn't he? That home debut against Burnley when he was absolutely fantastic, but then he sort of struggled after that, didn't he? He was in and out of the team. He seemed to struggle to the pace of the Premier League, maybe a little bit as well. But certainly the way he's turned his season around since Arteta's come in, and in particular since lockdown, where I think he's been absolutely brilliant. He's settled into the team and he's been really, really important in helping us go on and win the FA Cup. But the marks over the season, so maybe overall perhaps a 7 out of 10 is probably fair for Ceballos, although it would have been a lot higher if it was just on the second half of the season. So let's hope we can maybe extend his loan for another year, or even maybe buy him. Let's see what we can do in the summer with that, because it'd be good to keep him, because I think he's an important player for us now. Next, move on to another player who's been criticised quite a lot at the club over the whole time he's been there, really, Granit Xhaka. It's been a very mixed season for him, really, hasn't it? Not a great start. I felt as though the system didn't really suit him. He was getting exposed in midfield a lot, so he was tending to look to be overrun quite often in there. So I thought that maybe affected his performances. I think obviously reached a peak, didn't it, with that Crystal Palace incident when he was booed by the crowd and the way he reacted, and in fact he looked as though he may have been on his way out of the club, but he's really knuckled down, and the way he's turned his season around has been fantastic, and it shows what a great professional he is. It just shows how much he loves playing for the club. I don't think there's been much doubt about it anyway, but he's been absolutely brilliant under Arteta all the way through, and particularly since lockdown, fantastic, and he's one of the main reasons for helping the club really in the FA Cup to win the FA Cup. So, but it's been a mixed season really for Granit Xhaka. I don't think I can give him more than a 7 out of 10. If he'd played like he did in the second half, a bit like a lot of them really, he would have probably got a higher mark. But I'm going to give Granit Xhaka a 7 out of 10 and give him real good credit for the way he turned everything around from the Crystal Palace game. Move on to Joe Willock, obviously a young player. He's made a bit more of an impression this season, I think. He seems to be developing quite well. He seemed a bit physically weak sort of last season and stuff. So he seems to have strengthened himself up a bit. I thought he had a fairly good season, actually. I think he contributed well, scored a few goals as well from midfield, which is what we've been lacking. I don't think he's quite there yet. I still think he needs to still improve, and hopefully he can. But I think he had a decent season, maybe a 6 out of 10. For Joe Willock, and I think there's more to come from him, at least I hope so. Next, move on to Matteo Guendouzi. I mean, what can we say about him? He started the season really well, didn't he? He was brilliant in 3 or 4 of the early games. Tottenham at home, if we remember, even the very first game up at Newcastle, he had a good game. But it's all gone wrong for him, hasn't it? Arteta doesn't seem to rate him anymore. He's got out of favour completely since that Brighton game. Obviously, I think his attitude behind the scenes hasn't really helped him, and it's looking as though maybe he's played his last game for the club now. In a way, it's a shame because he's a young player. I think he's got potential, but he maybe doesn't quite fit in with what Arteta's looking at for the future. So I think maybe that, and I think the way that he reacted to the cup final, with his pictures on holiday, but not even congratulating the team, I just didn't really like that. So. But we're looking at his performances on the pitch. When he played, he did okay, maybe 5 out of 10, just because of the way it sort of ended for him, really. And I don't think he was really great before that, if we're honest. Another controversial figure next, another player who's not been featured much lately, Mesut Ozil. Again, he's another one who I think perhaps reaching the end of his time at Arsenal. It's a shame the way it's ended, really, because he is still a good player, and it's strange, really, because he didn't seem to ever get a good run in of games under Emery, did he? He was in and out of the team quite a lot. Arteta's come in and he initially was playing every game, and I thought he was playing reasonably well. He seemed to be adapting to the new kind of system, and I thought he was doing okay. But obviously, something's happened through the lockdown period, and he's not played at all since then. And it's just, I don't really know where it's gone wrong, if I'm honest. I'm sure one day it will come out, but I think now if he's not going to be playing, the club needs to get rid of him, get him off the wage bill to free up some cash to spend on players who are going to play and are going to contribute. So I personally like Mesut Ozil. I like watching him play. I think he's been a great player over the years for us. Obviously, this season hasn't really worked out for him, so I can only really give Mesut Ozil for this season maybe a 4 out of 10. And unfortunately, it might be the last we see of him. Next up is a player that had a really good season. I think Bukayo Saka, his breakthrough season. I know he made a couple of appearances to last season, but this has really been his breakthrough season, and what an incredible season he's had. Scored a few goals as well, had the most assists in the whole squad all season. So he's been absolutely brilliant. He's played in a few different positions as well. He's played on the right, he's played left wing, he's played left wing back, he's played left back. He's really adaptable. He seems to have been out of favour towards the end of the season. Actually, he didn't even feature at all in the cup final. He was on the bench all the way through, and he's not played a lot lately, which I think is a shame because I thought he'd been doing really well. I don't know if there's a fitness issue going on or he's been tired or whatever it is. I'm not really sure, but he's had a great season, a great breakthrough season for him, and let's face it, he's got a big future with the club, hasn't he? He's got a big future ahead of him, and what a great season he's had. I'm going to give Bukayo Saka an 8 out of 10. Outstanding for 18-year-old, brilliant. Move on to Reece Nelson, who's again it's his kind of breakthrough season with us in a sense. You know, he's not really played a lot before. Bit hit and miss for me. He scored a few goals, obviously a couple of important goals in the FA Cup. He scored one, didn't he, against Leeds, and obviously the winner against Liverpool. But I don't know, I just feel overall he hasn't quite hit the heights, certainly not that Saka has. But you know, he's still young, he's still learning. Arteta seems to really like him, so hopefully Arteta can get some more out of him, and hopefully there'll be more to come from him. But I don't think he's had a great season. Maybe a 6 out of 10 for Reece Nelson. Another player who's maybe divided opinion a little bit this season, his first season at the club, Nicola Pepe. It's been really frustrating for me. You can see the ability he's got and what he can do. He just doesn't seem to be able to produce it enough. And it's his first season. I think we need to make allowances for that a little bit. His numbers aren't bad, are they? 8 goals and 10 assists or something it was in the end, which, you know, is decent enough numbers for a first season. I feel as though he's got more to bring us. He's got more to offer, and he needs to produce more. But I suppose for a first season, you know, he helped us obviously win the FA Cup. He played well in the final. He played well in the semi-final. So he steps up in the games when it mattered. But I think overall it has been a bit of an up and down season for him. He's been a little bit hit and miss. Maybe a 6 out of 10 for the season, but I'm expecting a lot more better things from him in the future. A player who didn't really play that much, and I think he's on his way out now, isn't he? Henrik Mkhitaryan. He played a couple of games at the start of the season. A bit hard to judge him really because his mind clearly wasn't at the club. Maybe a 4 out of 10 for Mkhitaryan. He didn't really play that much, did he? Another young lad who didn't maybe get as many opportunities this season as many were expecting, Emil Smith-Rowe. He's been out on loan, of course. He's done pretty well on loan actually, especially at Huddersfield. But he didn't really play much for us, did he? Again, he's a player that has yet to really. I've not yet been convinced about him completely, if I'm honest. He's had a few good performances in the Europa League, but I'm not 100% sure. I think he needs to have a chance. I think he needs to be given a chance next season. So we'll see what happens there. But obviously for this season, he didn't really play that much. So again, maybe a 4 out of 10, just because he's not been around to play much for Arsenal. If we move on to the more sort of attacking players, we don't actually have a lot of options in attacking areas, do we? We start with Gabriel Martinelli, another sort of new signing this season, young lad, 18 years old. I mean, what a season he had! Absolutely brilliant. What an impact he made at the start, didn't he? When he scored a lot of goals in the Europa League, in the League Cup, and then of course later on when he had to step into the Premier League when Aubameyang was suspended, scored a couple of goals, and then unfortunately after the lockdown he got injured, so we couldn't really see how he would have developed. But let's hope the injury he can recover from. You we've seen what's happened with some of our other players that's had a reasonably serious knee injury. They've never really quite got back to the level, but he's still young. Let's hope he can, because I mean he was brilliant in the first half of the season. His attitude's fantastic. He's got all the ability in the world. He's really one for the future. It's just a shame that injury came along and really sort of curtailed his season, because he was doing really well. I'm going to give Martinelli a 7 out of 10, and he's another one I'm expecting a real big things from in the future going forward. Move on to Alex Lacazette. I think we all know he's not had his greatest season, has he? His goal return's not been good enough for the centre forward. I'm not saying his performances have always necessarily been that bad. He works really hard for the team. You know what you're going to get from Lacazette, but it seems like he's just not getting enough goals. Last season his goal tally was reasonably good, and 19 goals last season was good, but this season he's not really hit those heights. I think he ended with 12 goals, which isn't really good enough. He had a few injury problems as well, which I know he spoke about, and it's just not really happened for him, has it? So it's not been a great season, it's not been a poor season, so I think maybe a 6 out of 10 for Lacazette's probably a fair score. Move on to young Eddie Nketiah. Again, it's a big breakthrough season for him, really. I know he had a loan spell at Leeds, which didn't really work out for him, surprisingly enough, although he did score a few goals. But obviously, since Arteta's come in, he's got him back. He wanted him back, and he's used him quite a lot, and it's been effective. He's got a few goals. He's another one who looks like he's got a big future. He's not quite the finished article yet, of course, but you can see the potential in him. He's definitely a goal scorer. He gets into the right areas to poach goals. He scored a few good ones this season, and I'm really optimistic that he can push on now and really become a big player for us over the next 2 or 3 years. So yes, it's been a big season for him. I think he's done well. I'm going to give Eddie a 7 out of 10, and I feel as though he's really pushed on this season. Finally, we're going to go to the main man, the captain, top scorer, just brilliant, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I mean, what can you say about him? I mean, his goal record is just incredible. 60 goals in his first 2 full seasons at the club. He's just, I mean, they are great numbers when you look at the fact that he's not playing in one of the great Arsenal teams like some of his predecessors, like Henry did, like Ian Wright did. This has been a team that struggled for the 2 seasons really. It's been up and down form, and for him to still get them sort of numbers when he's playing mainly on the left hand side as well. He's not even playing as a main striker through the middle. I mean, it's incredible numbers. And again this season, he got criticised, didn't he? He doesn't produce in big games. I think he's definitely proved everybody wrong there with his semi-final performance and then the 2 goals to win the final. He's going to get my player of the season. I think inevitably. 29 goals, and had we managed to stay in the Europa League, he could have ended up with 35 easily. I mean, these are impressive numbers, really impressive numbers. So, I mean, we need to get him signed onto that contract, because I mean, you're never going to replace them goals. We're just not going to be able to do it. So we've got to keep him. Absolutely brilliant again. Love the guy. Love his smile. He's happy every time he plays, and he just gets goals. That goal, the winning goal in the FA Cup final, will live with us all forever, won't it? So, player of the season for me, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I'm going to give him 9 out of 10. Runner-up actually is going to be Martinez for me, just because I feel as though he had a great season as well. And I think maybe 3rd place I'm going to give to Bukayo Saka, just because his breakthrough season he's done really well. So that's my top 3. That's the player ratings. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my ratings. I'm sure there'll be people that do both, mainly disagree, but that's fine. Just let me know. Obviously, like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll try and keep updated with some new videos every few days, with transfer stuff, with stuff from the past, some old players, old matches, all that kind of stuff as well. So stay tuned, and in the meantime, come on, you Gunners.
49 undefeated, 49, I say.